I know. I'm not purposely trying to log on and then do this like, oh hey, hello, how are you? I can see. I'm not trying to do that. But it just so happens that while on here, that's what it's gonna look like. So this morning I wanted to chat about. I was gonna do it like this week, but there's so many things I wanted to share, so I figured I'd just get it out of the way. But there's so today I was going to chat about rigorous honesty. I didn't have like again, I didn't have a set structure on how I was going to speak, but I do know there are a couple things that I wanted to touch base on, and then I was just gonna kind of freestyle it. And so, if you're ever in rehab or in a 12-step program, they'll start with the 12 steps, and then they'll start with the 12 traditions. And 12 steps are like admitted that we were powerless and that our lives had become unmanageable, and then they go on to like the other 11 steps after that. And so one of the 12 traditions that they read in that is they end up saying, so often people who are rigorously honest with themselves, blah 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 blah. And I don't have like the reading because I didn't want it to be so focused on like actual recovery, but I did want to emphasize for me how rigorous honesty became such a great tool for me to get myself where I wanted to be. And so having said that, when I was this morning, I was at the Salvation Army for church, and they're celebrating Advent. You can see it on my stories as well. It's up still, and there I had talked about vocabulary words. So like in the Christian church, a lot of times it's, a lot of people think it's just like music and, it's, they see the good and they see the bad and the ugly. But sometimes we forget to like take the introspective and where we look inside in terms of like, oh, let me see what this information is and how I could best apply it to myself. And so one of the words that they had I love was Advent, and I was like, God, I know what the word means because they had taught us what it had meant, and they kind of carry a lot of the rehab people through the journey of what the children of Israel had went through while in the desert, and through the discipleship of what Jesus had taught his disciples and what the early church had did with Peter and Paul and John. And so, it kind of all just started clicking, like thank you, Grandma Vasily, for all the times I had to go to church. So one of the words that while I was at rehab was rigorous honesty. And so I had remember thinking about, could see myself really getting into the 12 Traditions book. A lot of times, a lot of us, we take a thorough inventory and we're honest with ourselves, and we still kind of end up back in the same place, which is okay. You don't have to, like, I drink and stuff, but you don't have to beat yourself. It really is a personal journey, just like your relationship with the Lord. That's something for everybody. So it isn't for anybody else to intrude on and say this is what you're doing right or wrong. So that's why I'm like really adamant about making sure that I don't come off that way in my shares. That my shares are just about what I picked up along the journey, and how I got to where I was from here. So if I like collected pennies or quarters through my journey, it would be just saying, look, this is what I picked up on the journey, blah, blah, blah. So, and one of those coins was rigorous honesty. And so I had gotten a therapist. A lot of these shelters and rehab places, they see the entire development of an individual woman, because I didn't go to a women's shelter, and they see the entire development, and then they have these curriculums and they hire people to meet those requirements so that they can pull the better part of the person out, so that way eventually, all in all, we can be mainstreamed back into regular society. And so when I met with the therapist, I love meeting with therapists, because for me personally, I don't have many people to talk to, and having grown up the way I've grown up, and having done the things that I did at a young age, and not like the bad things, but having been so different from all the other younger kids in many different aspects and ways, it was always hard to find somebody to relate to, because while all the other kids were doing something else, I was, feeding the homeless, blah, blah, blah. So that's a whole other story. So when I had met with the therapist there, I don't want to say her name, but she was super cool. She reminded me of Stevie Nicks, actually. But I asked her, I didn't know what rigorous honesty meant. And I go, what does rigorous honesty mean? And she looked back and she goes, it means, and she did this, she goes, it means like with all your might, with all your might. And so the way she said it kind of made me think like, I've got to put my all into this. Like I got to be so, put everything that I have into this. And so that's where rigorous honesty comes from. So for me, big portion of my younger years, especially for a lot of LGBTQ people, we find ourselves in fear of being honest. We're not allowed to. Sorry, my water. We find ourselves in an unsafe place where they've created nowadays what's called safe zones. What the hell is my water? So a lot of times, like if you go certain places and you see like a little rainbow thing and it's in a pyramid form, it's called a safe zone for like LGBTQ people. It means that you can walk in there and talk to them about something that you're going through, particular to the LGBT community. And so it's called a safe zone, because a lot of times being honest in the regular public can give stares and make people feel uncomfortable. And so, hold on. So, so there's a couple tricks that I had learned back in the day from, let's see if I still know it. See? A cool little trick. So you can kind of pull it off, blah, blah, blah. Don't overindulge and, PSA, blah, blah. So anyways, growing up, we didn't, youth like myself, we weren't allowed to be honest. Even though like culturally, like it was okay for me to like have a place in the home and have a role and responsibility, it still was taboo in a sense for me to say, oh, I had a crush on the same sex, or oh, I like this or that, without someone. So I had to sneak around and do a lot of things that I wasn't able to be free and be honest about. And so one of the things having come out of the closet, I'm kind of almost getting on the topic. One of the things having come out of the closet, I spent like 25 years being, because I came out when I was 25 after I had gotten fired. I came out. Oh, hi Sam. And so I came out, and this was after I had lost everything. It's kind of like an ongoing trend. And so I had, it's a big glass. And so after having coming out, I knew that for some reason, I just knew that it was like really important for me to like be honest with myself. And so the layers of lies that I had to pretend to do and be, and from 0 to 25, I ended up having to approach those things. And so when I came out of the closet, it took me a while to like express it. And sometimes like in the LGBTQ, in the LGBTQ world, we call it rebirth, because for so many of us, like there's actual like studies about once you come out of the closet, how you're reborn into like an immaturity stage. And that's why like a lot of people think that LGBTQ people and the way they behave are so unstable and immature, because they go through a regrowth process of understanding who they were as a child. And it may have something to do with that arrested development, or FTT, where the child is unable to be who they truly are at a young age, and so they don't grow. And so a lot of side studies, they don't without the proper support or understanding, a lot of them end up in the streets or committing suicide. And so for me, I didn't know all of this until I had to go and study, go back to school, go to volunteer at a resource center, and I had to learn how to become honest with myself. And so the whole disclosure process of telling people that I was gay, that I had gotten fired from my quote-unquote dream job, and having to lose friends and have nothing, even family members, like the love and support that came from a lot of family reports, just family just disappeared. Yeah, I still got cracker. I don't know, I'm making some toast, So being rigorously honest, for me, at first, I knew that it was easier for me in rehabilitation, because I had already went through a similar coming out process, a healing process, a whole journey of going through something difficult, where I had to be rigorously honest and come out and say, this is what it is, and I got to heal from past things. And so I had a frame of reference from being gay when I had to approach my recovery and my homelessness. So I didn't need to impress anybody, even though I had lost so many friends and family members, and etc. Blah blah blah. But I knew that being rigorously honest with myself was going to be key, especially in a world where a lot of us, we feel like we're totally misunderstood. It's very vital to know who you are and to hold on to that truth of who you are, because if you don't, then you'll let anybody tell you who you are, and that's very dangerous, because as soon as someone starts to tell you who you are, and you start to fit in that glove and that mold, your destiny is done. And so Aside from that, one of the things that having coming out of the closet, having going through rehab, we do a lot of things where being rigorously honest, giving your all, especially when you're in on the streets and you're homeless, and you're trying, you have to be honest with yourself. And a lot of the times that honesty came with someone else having to tell me their truth about me. And if they were smart enough and experienced enough, then yes, it was good enough. But if they didn't know me from like Jack or John on the street, then it wasn't really something that I saw. So if my honesty and my rigorous honesty within myself came to a limit, while holding on to who I knew, God knew who I told me I was, and it didn't get me any further, then it came to the place of where someone else had to be honest with me and say, just admit this or say this. And for me, that became a lot better. And so I fast forward today, a lot of the times, like for example, when I'm doing like paperwork for something, and I've got to report like my finances or income, it's really tempting to lie. We all lie like on our taxes and stuff like that. It's like, oh, 0, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes I can see in my mind, God reminding me of my sister and her telling me, I don't want it to come back to me. And so there's a story in the Bible that talks about, well, there's a lot of stories, but there's one in particular, and it's in the book of Judges. I won't get into it, but it just talks about telling the truth from the get-go, and how if you tell the truth from the get-go, the outcome could be something so much more different than having to carry on a lie while walking with the Lord and waiting for a win, rather than just saying this is what it is from the beginning. And so a lot of times when I'm tempted to do something, I just want to say, this is what it is, like this is a clean slate. And so sometimes if it gets to the point where I feel like I'm going to throw somebody under the bus, then I don't. Then I'll say it in a way where I want to be respectful about other people and not, make it seem like I'm the victim of something. But then for me, it's important just because I want to be able to not have to worry about it in the future and it coming back. And so, not that I like live in fear or anything like that. I like my hair better this way. Not that I like live in fear or anything, but it's important for me just to always begin with the truth. And I do. And having said that, I don't always think it's a good thing to say it. Or to speak the truth. Sometimes I think it's okay to omit the truth. I know that like in a court setting it wouldn't be possible. There's a time and a place for everything. But I also think that it's not wise to just go around telling people this is the truth or this is your perspective of something, because then that could also have something where it could kind of have some kind of reap some repercussions that might not be good. So sometimes it's almost better to keep it to yourself. But in my journey and in my particular life, having known years ago that when I was going to have to be completely honest with myself about where I was, I don't know if it's Kika or Luke. And so I knew that if I was going to be honest with myself, I didn't know what the repercussions were going to be for that, but I also know that it was the best thing for me, because what I had inside, I knew it was going to be really important to be able to Mr. Lua. Hi, Roy. Hey, everybody. Sorry, I totally was gonna do just a live, because it's so much easier to post it instead of do a pre-recorded video. But then I was like, no, people are actually signing on. So it's so rare people actually come on and say hi. But And so I think it's also it's good to just take in consideration and ask somebody, someone you trust and can be honest with about being honest. And then finding those places, those safe zones, even if you're straight, there's also there's places for straight people to go and be honest about, the things that you guys go through and, the lies you guys tell yourself and believe. I'm kidding. But I think for me personally, having come out of the closet, having to be honest, even you look great, keep it the positive vibe. Oh, thanks. Okay, I don't know how to send an emoji, but having come out of the closet, having to face my personal and professional failures, and being honest about that, and then moving in a direction where one failure doesn't define you, but if you're gonna want to move forward in your life, you're gonna have to at least internally tell yourself the truth, so that way you don't continuously repeat those same mistakes or behaviors. And then having to deal with this issue of drugs and being homeless. A big chunk of the drug aspect of it was I did only such a little part of what I studied and knew, and I was being honest, and this is all I had to give, and what I could do in terms of recovery, and the rest I had to trust in and be honest, or trust in somebody else to take the wheel and do the rest for me. So if you ever do find yourself, I hope people aren't offended by the natural assumption that if I'm saying tell the truth, that you're probably lying about something, but we all do fit. And sometimes, but no, I'm not trying to tell everybody, oh, you're such a liar about something, even though I'm a really good bullshit reader. So hold on. I just think it's good in a sense because it's freeing. A lot of people, they get to an age years and years later, like Caitlyn Jenner or Ricky Martin, good-looking, successful people, and they come out of the closet in their 40s or in their 80s or whatever age, and they finally get to be honest with themselves. And I think I'm thankful in the sense that I was able to be honest with myself in my 20s. I hated the fact that I had to lose everything to find myself in a sense of honesty, but God has a way of keeping and holding his children and protecting us in a way where he will allow us to get things right before we get left. I don't know, but it just works out in a sense where it just brings us closer to our higher being or power. And so for me, I've always called that Jesus. And so sometimes a journal, I don't have any suggestions, but sometimes a journal is a good thing. There's a lot of different things you could do in terms of just being honest, but what I'm saying is that what it has did for me to just be honest. Okay, so I can't say what I just read, but I know that for me, again and again, I think I've repeated this a gazillion times, but I'm still gonna post it because I don't want to redo this again. But the whole Bums and Roses idea and stuff that comes from the Guns and Roses and the play on words and stuff. And so for me, I wanted to talk about rigorous honesty because so much of it I do keep to myself, and I don't tell anybody else. And then I get to a place where when I'm with somebody or in prayer or reading the Bible, I find myself in a place of honesty, but then I allow the honesty to not come into a place where I'm too victimized. Like the goal intent of me telling the truth isn't for me to be ruined by the truth, or to go through a process of what is happening when I'm telling the truth. The goal and the intent of me telling the truth is to, one, be honest with myself, and two, is to get through this end of the goal to the next end of the goal. And so I hope that when you do find yourself in a place of rigorous honesty and you have to give all of your strength, that you're able to give all of your strength where you get from one point to the next point. And so if you find yourself doing that and find yourself frustrated, take some deep breaths, write it down, and do whatever you need to do. But that's pretty much it. I'm gonna eat some cheese and wine, and I will chat with you guys soon. Love yourself, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.